Hey, my name's Austin. In my last video, I started a bathroom remodel, making a faucet out of a piece of firewood. You almost done yet?
No.
Next time I'll be finishing up the remodel with another out-of-the-box log creation. Sweet, it came. But for this video, I had this crazy idea to make a massive art piece to replace the picture of me looking down on our toilet. I'm gonna supersize cross-stitching. It's a little outside of my comfort zone, but I think you're gonna like it. Ever since my mom made me this sick cross-stitched sweatshirt, I've been hooked on the medium. And by that I mean I've tried cross-stitching twice. And by twice, I mean I made 2 cross stitches, like 2 little stitches. It's too pokey and stringy and small and tedious. So I figured, why not make it 10 times bigger and use rope and make a 36-inch wide hoop, or octagon. I then put the hoop design on my iPad and started sketching out some ideas. Once I had a design I was happy with, or didn't hate at least, I started making the octagon hoop. I decided to make an octagon for a couple reasons. First, because it's easier than making a circle. And second, because in this bathroom, the faucet that I made was a hexagon shape, and I thought the octagon would match nicely with the geometry of the hexagon. So I did that instead of using the traditional circular hoop. Knowing that I had to drill over 300 holes for this project, I set up this handy little fence on my drill press, and that way I only had to worry about lining up one axis at a time, and it went pretty fast. Once I had all my holes drilled and all my pieces cut out, I glued and screwed them together and then held them tight with an old ratchet strap. So in terms of overall surface area, this definitely isn't the biggest cross stitch in the world. I don't want to take anything away from the beautiful nanas who made this epic art piece, but in terms of thread size, I think it could be the biggest. Guinness wouldn't come out and verify it, but making my canvas out of 4mm cord and using 3/8" rope, I don't know, maybe it is the biggest.
Oh, yeah! For Pete's sake.
For reasons I won't get into, I accidentally made one of my holes bigger than the rest. Ugh. But anyways, if you guys find a cross stitch with thicker thread, I would be stoked to see it because that would be epic. So it took me quite a few hours to do this weave. Thankfully, I was able to do it inside with the kids watching TV and stuff like that. But you might be asking yourself, why would you spend all the time to do that? You could have used, fencing material or some sort of screen or something like that. Really what I wanted to do was recreate and scale up Aida cloth, which is the kind of cloth used for cross-stitching typically. And I've seen other people do larger scaled cross stitches, and they might use type of fencing or something like that. I just didn't like the look of it personally, and I wanted this to be a little bit more of a throwback. So I got this 4mm cotton cord that's typically used for macrame, and it worked really good. I used 4 reels of it, which ended up being 200 yards. By this part of the project, I'm starting to get a little anxious because I've done all of this work and all I have is a blank canvas. But thankfully I have a pretty good friend who's a professional artist, so I thought I would take it over there, talk to him, ask him some questions, and see if I can get some inspiration.
Red, orange, yellow, blue?
Oh, hey, man.
What are you doing?
You know, an artist never stops learning.
I had a couple questions.
Okay,
Is this a good time?
Yeah, this is a great time.
Okay. What is art? How do you art? Yeah, if art was a baby, what would you name it? If art could ask you a question, what would it ask you?
Hopefully not questions like these.
Well, as you can see, the questions I thought of ahead of time weren't going over very well, but thankfully I thought of some better ones on the fly. Why do people art?
People art to express their emotions and to filter the world around them through their specific lens of existence.
Who can do art?
Anyone can do art. You can do art.
Even woodworkers and
Yes, even
makers.
woodworkers.
Have you ever cross-stitched before?
I've never cross-stitched before.
Have you seen the cross-stitch hoops?
Yeah, that grandmas use
Yeah.
and yeah.
So I made my own.
Oh my goodness. That's huge.
This is my thread here.
Whoa.
Gonna weave it through.
This is your thread size? You can rock climb with this. This is crazy.
Is this art?
That's art if I've ever seen it.
Does this mean I'm an artist?
Yeah, I'd say there's just one thing missing. Hold on, hold still. Now you're an artist.
Well, that was a happy accident. Okay, I finally got the weave done after maybe 8 hours, but it's nice and tight and clean. I'm really happy with the detailing, and I've got blisters all over my fingers from pulling this cotton rope so much, but I'm really happy with it. Now I'm really excited to get going with the stitching part of it. So now that I have the canvas done, I took a photo of it, put it on my iPad, and sketched over that again. I had to make sure that I had all of the rows numbered perfectly and all of the columns just perfect, because this is basically just a big pixelated piece of art, and I wanted to be able to count each row and make sure that I got my sketch transferred perfectly onto the canvas. Weaving the rope through here was actually pretty easy. It was really relaxing and fun. The hardest part was actually just figuring out which colors of rope went where, and I did mess that up a few times and had to back it up, but it wasn't that big of a deal, and it was really relaxing, and I can definitely see why people like cross-stitching, especially when there's no needles involved. So I almost spent several $100s on really high quality rope, but then thankfully my client came in and stopped me from doing that.
Hey, what are you doing?
Nothing, get out of my room.
Austin. No room for you!
So I went to a big box store and bought just whatever rope I could find that was the color that I wanted. And this one in particular had a reflective strip in it because it's used for like tying tarps down and stuff like that, I guess. But it actually turned out pretty cool and gave the project a little extra texture to the fur for this creature I am creating. I had originally planned on finishing the cross stitch, going diagonally one direction, then coming back and going diagonally the other direction. But I actually kind of liked the way this looked a little bit better. It didn't stick off the canvas as much, and it still had pretty good coverage. And when I tested a few full cross stitches, it just kind of bunched it up a little bit and didn't look great at the scale. So I elected just to go with a half stitch. So at this point, I was pretty much done with my initial sketch, and I actually thought it was turning out really good. I tried to add a little bit more flair to it, so I tried putting a smile on, and I thought it looked so good. Not really. So I took another picture of it, took it back to the drawing board on my iPad, and sketched out a little bit more detail and added a little bit more flair to it. I then used those concepts and then went back to doing some more stitching. And I really think this is what pushed it over the top. The initial look was okay, but once I added all this detail, I feel like it really came to life and really turned more from just a novel concept to something that's more interesting to look at. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the concept was to replace one red fox with another red fox looking down on our guest bathroom toilet, because for some reason in our family we think that's kind of funny. But anyways, we picked the blue and the orange to complement the colors of the faucet that I made in the bathroom. So without further ado, here are the final shots. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I know this was a little bit different for me. Next time, I will be back to making out-of-the-box log creations. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video. And as usual, I'm going to show you a few ways that I messed it up. Like I said, I made one hole bigger than all the rest. I dented and scratched the frame a little bit, and it looks more like a Shiba Inu than a fox. So there you have it. Just remember, things don't have to be perfect to be wonderful. Catch you later. Oh gosh.